My dear friends, today is Remembrance Sunday, when we call to mind those who have gone before us, who laid down their lives in the service of nation and neighbour, who endured incredible suffering, whose sacrifice enabled so many of the things that we now enjoy. Today is when we remember them before God. Now, I'd like this morning to say something about what it means to remember, and how remembering enables us to be hopeful even in the midst of great troubles. And so there is a passage from the Lamentations of Jeremiah that I'd like to share with you. And this is Lamentations chapter 3, 19 to 26. The thought of my suffering and homelessness is bitter beyond words. I will never forget this awful time as I grieve over my loss. Yet I still dare to hope when I remember this. The faithful love of the Lord never ends. His mercies never cease. Great is his faithfulness. His mercies begin afresh each morning. I say to myself, the Lord is my inheritance, therefore I will hope in him. The Lord is good to those who depend on him, to those who search for him. So it is good to wait quietly for salvation from the Lord. Now, the context for this passage is the devastation of Jerusalem wrought by the invading armies of Babylon, the trauma that the people of Israel have experienced. Jeremiah looks around him and cries out in anguish, and read Lamentations for the detail of that. Yet still he chooses to hope. And how can he do this? There are surely times when we too can feel ourselves surrounded by devastation. Our present situation with the virus is for many just such a time. I know from hearing your stories that many of you have come through difficult times too. I also know, because it is the condition of fallen human beings, that many of us will experience such times in the years to come. Times when things will start to lose their sense, when a dark fog of bewilderment descends in which all we can do is cry out, "Oh God!" And it is to help you in such times that I say to you now, Christians are not called to feel hopeful. Christians are called to choose hope. And now, to try and explain what I mean by this, I'd like to talk about a puppy named Bazooka. I have an occasional visitor to the vicarage at the moment. She's called Bazooka, and she belongs to my 18-year-old son. Now, puppies are delightful, but they need to be trained. And that means that sometimes the puppy gets told off or given a sharp tap on her nose. She's doing well, and has learned, for example, to patiently sit whilst her food is being prepared. When she is stimulated by hunger, and the smell of the food is filling her nostrils, she's learned not to express her natural response of rushing to the food. She's become more skilled, more mature, and life is much better for everyone as a result. The stimulus to her is still present, but she has learned the ability to choose how she responds. In other words, she is displaying a virtue. When we experience devastation, when we are like Jeremiah and lamenting what has come to pass, this is a stimulus. As human beings with souls, we can choose how to respond. We can choose to hope, for hope is a virtue. Now, this is not a matter of denying the truth of a situation, however difficult it might be. We are not called to forget or ignore or suppress our suffering. True hope is never found in denying the truth of a situation. Our calling, in fact, is the opposite, for the choice of hope depends upon a clear, a calm, even a cold assessment of the truth of our situation. Rather, choosing hope is about seeing the whole truth, allowing ourselves to feel what we feel, to mourn and lament the loss of what has passed away, as Jeremiah does, but then placing that truth, those feelings, into a wider context, into a larger story. Jeremiah does that, and he chooses hope when he remembers. He remembers God, he remembers what God is like, and he remembers what God has done before. And it is on the basis of those memories that Jeremiah hopes. Jeremiah remembers, and so he gains a greater perspective, a wider context, a larger story. It is this remembering which, in the face of the stimulus of devastation around him, enables him to respond with hope. So I have a suggestion for you on this day of remembrance. Jeremiah calls to mind all that the Lord has done for the people of Israel up to his time. My question for you to ponder is, what has the Lord done for you to lead you to this time? How has God led you and shaped you and blessed you? What are the essential moments in your journey of faith, in your story, that you want and need to remember? Of what are you able to say, but this I call to mind, and therefore I have hope? As we remember today those in our communities who have struggled in tumultuous times before us, let us also remember the wider story of what God has done, and the tribulations that he has led us through before, and let us then look calmly at all the noise and haste that surrounds us, and choose to trust in the Lord and to hope. Until we meet again. Amen.